Welcome, everybody. It's episode 87 of the 214 Sports Show. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joseph Duffy, joined as always by my wonderful co-host TJ Krilowicz. How you doing, TJ?
Good man. We're getting to the really thick part of school right now. It's getting real it's getting real hard right now. Pause, but school's crazy right now. I'm
Yeah,
sure it is
it's
the same for you.
unreal schedule I have right now. Unreal. It's really turning up. The heat's turning up. But sadly, it'll get colder physically outside. And I don't know if I'm ready for that up in Syracuse, New York, but I think Austin has been fine usually at this time of year for the next
It's
month
an
and a
oven
half.
right now.
Yeah.
It is an
Nothing
oven.
crazy. I low-key would do anything to have that weather right now, but right now it's 65, I think outside. It's not crazy,
65 is
but
great.
yeah, in a
I would
month though, it's
kill
gonna
for
be
that right now.
yeah, in a month it's gonna be a problem. That's
Yeah.
the issue. This is episode 87 of the 214 Sports Show. Jay Saldi episode. I almost try to consider Jake
Wow.
Ferguson the number one fantasy tight end, by the way, as of now, Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to go with Jay Saldi, Cowboys tight end from the 1977 championship team against the Broncos, where he won the Super Bowl. Played on the Cowboys from 1976 to 1982 as a career 913 yards and seven touchdowns. Also, on this day, October 2nd of 2022, Cooper Rush filled in for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys beat the Washington football team, or Commanders, actually. This was the first year they were called the Commanders, actually. Michael Gallup returned back to action against Carson Wentz in Washington. It was a great game if you remember this.
You know,
25 to
I
10, I believe.
I actually don't remember this. I thought you were talking for a split second, and I know that this is a different year. It would have been 2021, but I looked at the outline and I thought it was going to be the Minnesota Vikings game, where Cooper Rush came in. I believe it was Amari Cooper who had the game-winning
Uh-huh.
touchdown, right?
Yeah. Clutch
Very,
performance.
that was one hell of a performance. I actually don't remember this Commanders Cowboys matchup. It's crazy.
I
I should
remember
have
it
put it on the casual.
especially, yeah, I remember it especially because of the uniforms Washington was wearing. They're wearing the all black uniforms. This is when they were still struggling a lot, didn't have Jaden Daniels like they have now. It's just a rotating door of co-backs, revolving door of quarterbacks. And Carson Wentz got to be in on the action, and Cooper Rush found a way. Um, and this is the part of the narrative that people had about Dak Prescott back then, that it didn't matter who was the quarterback of the offense, that Cooper Rush could come in and the Cowboys could be just fine. And that was the narrative people had in the first half of the year when Dak got hurt after that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game.
Mm-hmm.
When Tom Brady came into
Yeah.
AT&T Stadium and defeated the Cowboys. And you look at that team back then, it's just a shame it ended that way as it did against the Niners, because this is one of those 12-5 seasons where I thought this team could have possibly competed in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, 3 years in a row, 12 and 5, 2 years of those 3 years losing to San Francisco. I would arguably say that this year was a lot harsher of a loss to San Francisco than the 2021 wild card at AT&T Stadium. Um, this team was, I mean, this team was something else. And I think this was the year as well that Tony Pollard had an amazing breakout year. He tore his, I believe, ACL, something like that, at the divisional game against the Niners. Um, but you look back at those 3 years and wonder how the hell did they just not take advantage in the playoffs? Just one good game other than the Tampa game, which I guess you can count. That was a beaten down Buccaneers team with a father time Tom Brady at quarterback. So I don't know how much I really pride that win, but these other games, man, just tough.
Well, yeah, and that Tony Pollard injury you're talking about is what made me anti-hip drop. If you know about the lore behind why I
Oh,
don't
he's
like the
yeah.
hip drop tackle, that ended my guy Tony Pollard, one of my favorite
It's never
running
been the
backs.
same since.
Yeah, he really hasn't been the same. I mean, how
He
many
hasn't.
times do you see Tony Pollard break out in the Titans now? How many times do you see him break off a 60-yard run, or a crazy run where he's putting a dude out of his shoes? I mean, you don't see that as much. He was a highlight reel in the kickoff
Absolutely.
game at times when he had the kickoff against the Raiders. He was a big highlight guy in the run game. It's like you don't see that as often anymore, and that's what happens when a guy is squashing all his his weight on the freaking leg of a guy who he's, 20 pounds heavier than, who's running full speed at him. It's like, why are we allowed this in the NFL? And I feel like they don't even enforce it at all. So,
You know, Joe, I agree with you, but as a former DB yourself, is or not DB, a defensive lineman yourself, what is have you ever had to be put in a position where you did a hip drop tackle?
okay, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I've done it. Don't get me wrong. That's a messy question, but I love it. That's a great question. I would be a liar to say I haven't done that before. But sometimes, man, you got to make a business decision and put the guy down.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I
it's
mean
got,
it's that or getting yelled at
yeah,
by your coach and
pretty much. Yeah. I just think like it's a whole different ball game in the NFL. It's like these guys are professionals at this sport. I'm like, some of these guys don't even have to do that. Like what Fred Warner did to Tony Pollard, did he have to like squash all his weight and like have that guy break his ankle or whatever his Achilles injury was? Just it's brutal to me.
yeah,
I
Fred
think that
Warner's dirty player though.
that changed his whole career. So,
Mm-hmm. It
uh,
absolutely did.
miss you, Tony Pollard. But the Dallas Cowboys, who would have thought last week when we were talking with Ray Gorvey that in that hyped matchup, another Cowboys Packers rivalry matchup at AT&T Stadium, the stadium where the Packers honestly own the Dallas Cowboys, that we would end up in a shootout tie? What are we doing? A tie? Your thoughts on that game?
Tie. A tie. Well, I mean, real quick, I gotta agree with Michael Irvin. I mean, that is ups it is insane that the Cowboys had 1 second left on that final play. It did not feel like that was 6 second play. It felt like it was a lot longer than 6 seconds. That pass was in the air for at least a few seconds. It felt like at least. I mean, I completely agree with Michael Irvin on that. He had the funniest explanation on first day. I want to talk to that Joker who was running the clock in Dallas last night. But I mean, it's incredible that the Cowboys were even in that position. I think that there was, um, I was watching with Raymond Gorvey and a couple of other Packers fans, which made this a incredible watch, to be honest. None of us were satisfied at the end of the game. None of us knew how to feel. But, I think that a lot of things with the Dallas Cowboys is that they tend to beat themselves. And in this circumstance, it felt like the Packers kind of started to beat themselves. You look at that play with Dak Prescott where he was getting pressured, got out of it, escaped the pocket, and threw that just incredible dime to Jalen Tolbert that brought them to about the 4 yard line in overtime. Of course, they didn't convert, but you're looking at that play, and that play, the DB for the Packers just completely gave up on the play. He just stopped and started watching in the end zone. And, you know, that's that it was an incredible play, but the Packers kind of screwed themselves up at certain points of the game. That's just one example. But at the same time, the Cowboys did screw themselves over too. You look at LaFay, or I'm sorry, the
Miroslav?
yeah, the linebacker with the horrible late hit
Silly.
on the
Silly.
third down right before the 2 minute warning in the fourth quarter. That was just, yeah, like you said, it was just extremely silly. It felt like it was, I mean, I don't know what's going through the head. You obviously had the momentum, but it was such an abomination of a late hit that you had to have known what you were doing before you laid in that shoulder to lay that guy down. But I mean, props to the team, man. Props to the offense, obviously, after scoring 14 points to Chicago the week before, going against 40 against the Green Bay Packers, limiting Micah Parsons to one Mickey Mouse sack. I mean, it's incredible. They played an incredible game, especially with Tyler Booker being out. Um, and so the offense is great. The defense, of course, I'll let you go on your defense rant because I know you got it. I know you got a way better defensive rant than I do.
Yeah.
Because the third down conversion rate for the Packers is what kept them in the game. It's what made this a game. They had too many opportunities to continue their drives, and that's just unacceptable. So I'll let that transition into you.
Yeah, you talked about that offense for the Cowboys, which was awesome. But yeah, that Mickey Mouse sack, I need that stat corrected. I can't believe the NFL has not changed that.
Immediately.
I did not
Roger,
know that was going to be a sack. I couldn't believe that. But
Mr.
it ended
Burnett.
up saving the game in a way for Green Bay. So props to Micah Parsons in a way, because that could have been, a potential touchdown leading or game-winning touchdown for Dak Prescott going into the end zone, the left side. But yeah, this Cowboys defense, man. Cowboys offense confirmed first in the game as far as total yards a game in the NFL. The defense last in the league. My goodness, if this team just had a mid defense, if they just had a defense that was ranked 15th, 16th, 17th, what would be of this team by now? You look
Mhm.
at that third down defense as you were talking about, 10 of 14 the Packers were on third down.
Jeez, man.
I mean, that usually loses games. This team is very fortunate that Dak Prescott and George Pickens exist because they were bailing this team out. They're fortunate that Jalen Tolbert made that crazy catch way downfield. Then I
Hmm.
argued that Dak Prescott should have gotten a lot more praise on by the whole league for that throw. But it's just
Unbelievable.
unbelievable to me, this defense. Kyer Elam, Trayvon Diggs, what are we doing? Deron Bland getting feasted on by Romeo Doubs. you know, these corners are just they're food. They're food by every single receiving core. You saw it against Chicago. You see it again against Green Bay. I don't know what is going on. They played a little bit better in the fourth quarter in overtime. And I don't know what it was about LaFleur and the Packers in that last quarter in OT, but it felt like they got a little bit conservative. And they kind of were playing into the hands of Matt Eberflus in this defense. I felt like they could have taken more shots downfield like they did in the first half because we didn't see the Cowboys stop it a lot, and we didn't see them stop against New York and Chicago. Yeah, I think the Cowboys are very fortunate on defense, and they still had 40 dropped on them.
No, I mean, and to follow on that to that point of the Packers being conservative, I'm gonna go off and unleash my opinion that the Cowboys should have gone for it on fourth and goal. I think that
I don't hate that.
I get that, you are getting the guaranteed points. Brendan Aubrey's gonna make that field goal. You got the 3 points. Now you're putting, but the thing is that you're putting it into your defense's hands to save the game, to get a stop, no matter what. Because, I mean, field goal ties the game, touchdown wins it for the Packers now in overtime. And you are putting it in the hands of the defense that is, once again, what you said, 10 for 14 on third down conversions that day. Also, one of the worst defense in the league with yards allowed, ranked last in the league, like you said, and you're putting it into their hands against Green Bay's offense. I think the Cowboys should have gone for it. If they didn't get it, well, guess what? You had game over. But it's even maybe it's not even game over. You never know. Jordan Love can easily make a mistake, and you were at the 4 yard line. They had to go at least 50 or 60 yards to get into decent range for field goal. Definitely at least 60 yards, which it could have been potentially, the Cowboys defense could potentially have stepped up, but I think you take that chance there, especially for a first year coach with Brian Schottenheimer and the circumstances regarding this game, especially since we own their first round pick. You got to take the risk and get that W, I think.
Honestly, like when people started saying that, I didn't understand it at first. I knew what they meant, obviously, but I'm just saying I thought that you would take the points. But when you put it like that, I mean, I don't know how you disagree because how do you put that in the hands of your defense, who you saw in the fourth quarter could not get the stop? They
Hmm.
couldn't get a stop multiple times on third down. You saw the silly penalty by Marist, but you also saw on that drive that led to the McManus tying field goal. They had a few third and fourth goal opportunities that they converted, the Packers did.
Yep.
And you had opportunities right there, and that showed that the defense cannot get a stop when you need them to. So for Brian Schottenheimer, I am a little disappointed that now in the week that they decided not to go for a fourth and goal because he saw it again, like right after they took the lead up that Brandon Aubrey field goal. Aubrey does a great job of making sure the ball doesn't get or gets in the landing zone, forcing the return man to have to move and not get to the 30-yard line, which he would be if he you know just bounced into the end zone.
Hmm.
But you have good starting field position for the defense, have them kind of pinned near the 20, and you still can't stop them.
Yep.
You had a third down, you had a fourth down, you still couldn't get it done. They convert off a play up the middle, and it's like it's just
And who knows?
heartbreaking.
Like, yeah, you have the fourth, if you put them down on the four, if you do fail that, fourth and goal conversion, if you miss that, or if you mess that up, they're on the 4 yard line. I mean, that could be a completely different ball game than starting on the 20 yard line like they did. I understand that that was already good field position enough being on the 20 for the defense to get a stop, but maybe the 4 yard line, and also, I mean, the add on to that as well. the offense was on fire, man. Yeah, I mean, you gotta just go for it. I think that that was, I, I just think that again, you know, maybe just because he hasn't had any, maybe it's because Schottenheimer, again, first season, only 4 games in. He's not on any hot seat whatsoever. People are genuinely enjoying him as a coach, that he doesn't want to take those risks and potentially harm his reputation, as a coach, and, potentially people look back on this game and be like, this is a bad decision by Brian Schottenheimer. But I just really, really think that with how the game was flowing, that was a situation that the Cowboys should have gone for it and taken the risk.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that. I mean, it's so weird seeing the Cowboys with a tie because I can't recall the last time they had a tie beforehand. Do you remember this? This would be a good trivia. I feel like I should have known this.
No, I feel like it's. Did it happen? Is this the first tie for Dak? I feel like we've had a tie before with Dak, but I can't put a year on it. I don't think that we have actually.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
this
been a while
Cowboy.
for sure.
It is surprising that the NFL has not moved to maybe like college rules, like after the first OT, maybe like a little 2 point conversion off, to end the game. Because these guys are pros. I know they play a grueling game for a living, but I'm sure a lot of these guys don't want ties. I feel like we should ask a lot more players about their opinions on this because this was a game that was heading off to classic ranks,
It was.
classic ranks. And I don't know if it'll be remembered the same because it ends in a draw essentially. But I gotta agree with your initial point, man. What are we doing with the clock operator? What are we doing? You had one job, one job. You work for AT&T Stadium. Let that clock wind down.
Yeah, no, no, no. I got two things. First of all, by the way, it was a scoregami. Gotta always represent the scorigamis in NFL history, and
Absolutely.
what a legendary scorigami 40-40 tie. Second of all, you talked about the media talking about the ties. I mean, who was in the locker room or the press conference asking about the ties? Because those were horrible
The
questions.
same
I mean, that is
question.
on par with Coach Sarkisian's response when one of our colleagues asked him if Arch Manning was hurt, and he said, "I don't look at you guys when you guys are using the bathroom." Like, what the hell does that mean? This guy on the Dallas sports media, somebody asked Dak, somebody asked Jerry Jones, if a tie feels like kissing your sister, is that right? Is that what he
Oh
was
my
asking?
Lord. He's trying,
My
yep.
God.
It's a common saying about how a tie is in sports. And, he tried it multiple times. I think it was the same guy, but he was trying to get that sound bite.
Find that guy,
And
dude. That
that
is
was
an
hilarious.
incredible. That sounds like rage bait. I don't even know what that is. Just an incredible question. I would never have the cojones to ask a question like
Yeah,
that.
especially at Jerry Jones. The response was it's pretty funny troll by the old man,
Yeah, yeah. He
Jera.
had, he had a good response. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Still
Well,
hate you,
look,
Jerry.
yeah, the Cowboys are now 1-2-1, and looking ahead to the New York Jets, who they play next at MetLife. Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. They looked much better against Miami on Monday Night Football. I'll absolutely say that. But it's going to come down to this defense for sure. What do you think?
I mean, Justin Fields had a game, and I think that Justin Fields has the perfect archetype of a quarterback to kind of damage this Cowboys defense. Um, I mean, his versatility. I mean, he had a couple good thrown balls against Miami. Garrett Wilson is obviously a very dangerous wide receiver. Shout out from since he's from Austin, Texas, and um, Brees Hall, I mean, running backs, we're giving up so many yards, and it's not just the run game like we're used to. It is the passing game, but the run game is still killing the Dallas Cowboys. DeAndre Swift with Chicago and Josh Jacobs with Green Bay had some really good average per rush attempts against Dallas. I expect Brees Hall to do the same. He's still very explosive, no matter what the injuries that he's had these last few years. He's still a very explosive back. And Justin Fields, if you're not containing him, man, that guy can basically be a running back as well. And that is danger, danger, danger for this defense for sure. And if Diggs and the other cornerbacks and these defensive backs, and I don't know if Malik Hooker is going to be good for this game, but they're going to have to learn how to tackle because Brees Hall is an amazing player with contact. Um, And of course, they just got to learn how to tackle because Justin Fields is going to be super elusive against them when he runs out of the pocket.
You know, it's funny because it's basically the same week as last year in the Mike McCarthy era that the Cowboys get to go against Justin Fields. This time last year, October 6th, actually, they
You're
played the
right.
Pittsburgh Steelers, and Justin Fields was the starter while Russell Wilson was still a little bit banged up. He went 15 for 27, 131 yards, two touchdowns. It ended up being a defensive game, and we know how that ended with Dak finding Jalen Tolbert in the front left pylon for the win, but Justin Fields didn't play too bad in that game. There were some third downs they just couldn't convert, but he didn't play terribly bad. But when I look at this Cowboys offense, I think that I'm gaining more confidence for sure, especially after last week. I was worried how this offense will look with CeeDee Lamb out after the Chicago injury, but George Pickens is looking just fine. What do you think about what he did this past week?
I mean, it's incredible. I think that George Pickens, I thought, that maybe it was going to take a few weeks for him to get adjusted, especially as a wide receiver too. He's been kind of known to be a wide receiver one these last few years in Pittsburgh, and I think that just having this just having the adjustment of playing with CeeDee Lamb. Now, of course, CeeDee Lamb being hurt and him going back to his original type role, I think that really helped him. Dak looks like he has incredible chemistry with him. Some of those catches, of course, that one deep ball to the left side of the sideline. I can't remember what part of the game it was, but his hand, his catch with the safety kind of looming, going over and hitting him right after the catch, and him holding on, keeping those 2 feet in bounds. Just one of the best catches I've ever seen from a wide receiver, I think. It was really good. And but you kind of mentioned this before. This is a little bit dangerous to a point because he's playing too good, and this is a contract year for him. And he does have the same agent as Mr. Parsons.
And that's what I was worried about as soon as he went down. This team might be cooked if he starts cooking. 8 catches, 134 yards, two touchdowns against the Packers. I did not expect that, especially with the hype that the Packers defense has had, being young, being physical. They're supposed to be next up as one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they looked a little bit sorry last week. I'm not gonna lie to you. They looked a
Yeah.
little bit sorry.
You got to give some props to Schottenheimer though with his
For
offensive
sure.
scheme. Of course, the defense, cornerbacks, people matched up against George Pickens. They took advantage of that. They had I believe they had an injury. They put Valentine in. Oh my goodness. Add in the play man, the cover George Pickens, and they took advantage of that. They were
Oh
playing
man.
behind you. They were playing 10 yards back on Pickens. They were doing a lot of quick throws in and outs, the Pickens, and that's props to Schottenheimer for, realizing that and exploiting that. And, hey, it's, I don't know how many times that Pickens is going to be playing against a cornerback like Valentine. He did not look too good. Um, but you got to, of course, he's going to go against probably Sauce Gardner the next week in New York. And so, who knows if that's going to be, maybe a more difficult game for George Pickens. I would assume so. So.
Well, we're looking at some prop bets now. The Cowboys are 2.5 point favorites. I think that's a very interesting spread. Um, let me look at the over under really quick. I didn't really check that. I thought I had that written down. But as far as 2.5, what do you think about that? Did the Dallas Cowboys cover that, or will they go against?
I really think that this is going to be another close game. Um, they're not that performance on the road against Chicago does worry me that maybe this is a year that they might struggle a little bit on the road, especially against competitive teams. I know that New York is far from a competitive team really, for playoff wise, but I am a little worried that their away performance might drop a little bit compared to their home performances, like they have been recently in the last few years. Um, so I'm gonna go with under on this. I'm gonna go with they either win on a game-winning field goal, or it's a it's another tie. I guess I do want to have confidence that they'll win, but I don't know. I just don't think that it will be a convincing win, in my opinion.
Sure enough. I mean, I actually think they'll cover this. I think they can win by a field goal, win by 3 points. Brennan Aubrey in the clutch. The over-under is set at 47.5. Do you think that they go over or under that as a total for both teams?
Yeah, I'll go over. I mean, the only game that I think that they haven't gone over in Philadelphia and Chicago, which are both away games. But Philadelphia is kind of an outlier with the rain delay that they had. Um, you know, do the Jets score more than 30 points? Because I do think that the Cowboys get at least, you know, I don't know. It's wild to me that Philadelphia scored the least amount of points out of any team against the Cowboys so far. Again, an
Hmm.
outlier game. I'm going to go slightly under because I don't think that the Jets score over 30 points, but I'm still worried that the offense might drop a little bit this game. So I'm going to go slightly under here.
That's very fair. I might go under as well. I do think the defense will be the reason why it appears closer to heading towards over, but I think under will be um, ending up at 47.5. How about Javonte Williams? He's set for 65.5 rushing yards. He's averaged 78 rushing yards this season so far. A very nice surprise for this Cowboys rush attack. The Jets have the 25th ranked run defense in the NFL. Does he go over 65 and a half or under?
I think he goes over. I mean, I feel like this one's a pretty easy one in my opinion. I don't know what the circumstance with Miles Sanders is regarding this game. Javonte Williams, I'm going to go over 65 and a half.
Yeah, I'll go over with that too. I think he can have a really solid game. I think he'll get back scoring touchdowns even more efficiently than the pass. I'll go over for Javonte Williams. About Jake Ferguson, the number one tight end in fantasy right now, also had a great game against Green Bay, another touchdown, 42 and a half receiving yards. Where do you have that?
Yeah, he's kind of lucky. I would assume that Tucker Kraft would probably still be number one if they didn't call back his touchdown. I'm gonna go over on this one as well. I think that Jake Ferguson's gonna be the primary target this game. Dak loves his tight ends, and I think that last game kind of reinforces that Jake Ferguson is still a good tight end, and I think he carries that on to this week.
Yeah, I mean, they're having to realize, man, that guys are gonna have to step up with the loss of CeeDee Lamb and this injury. Cavante Turpin has done a really good job, I think. He's starting to figure it out. Not really him figuring it out, but the coaches and the scheme is allowing him to finally flourish. I thought that McCarthy could have had him much better in the system, but Jake Ferguson is for sure gonna have to step up as well. I think this is an easy over for sure. They're gonna realize they're gonna have to need him a little bit more against this Jets defense. They can get at least 50 receiving yards. But
I don't know
George
if you
Pickens,
noticed, by the way, though, to Turpin and Tolbert, almost every third down
yeah,
passes to them.
it's
It's
unreal.
incredible.
It's
Yeah,
unreal. We talked about this in the past. I mean, what is this? I like that catch though by Tolbert though. That was clutch.
obviously.
George Pickens, 70 and a half receiving yards.
I want to kind of, I, I'm gonna go under here. I'll say he gets around 50 to 60 yards, but he gets a touchdown in this game. I think that they're gonna give him more situational looks again. You know, the Jets defensive backs are a little bit more skilled, I think, than the circumstance that the Packers were in last week, on Sunday night. So I think it's gonna be harder to find him this game. I'm gonna go 50, 60 yards, still gets a touchdown though.
I think the ground game is going to feast. So with that in mind, I think Pickens will go a little bit under. He'll have a nice few plays, but being on Sauce Gardner is not easy. Even though I don't think Garner has had the best of seasons for being a former All-Pro, I think he'll do a good job against George Pickens. I think Pickens he'll hold him to at least, a little bit under, maybe 70, have him like 60 yards or something. But for Dak, I think this is pretty easy, honestly. Maybe it's not, but 239 and a half pass yards, first in the league in passing yards in the NFL.
Well, you say it's easy. I'm actually thinking it's more complicated than what the stats show. I'm going to go under. He hasn't gone over 239 yards on an away game so far this year. And if he doesn't prove, if he can't prove it yet, I'm going to say that he goes under again.
Yeah, I mean, this Jets offense or Jets defense rather is 14th, I believe, in pass yards against in the air. So, I mean, they're middle of the pack. Nothing crazy that they give up, but they're not exactly terrible. but they're not elite either. I think Dak can have a solid game. I think this is a very fair number to put him at 239.5. I think he can go over this for sure. Do you have a quick score prediction before we move on to a little quick segment?
Let's go with I'm gonna go 24-23 Dallas Cowboys, Brendan Aubrey, game-winning 56-yard field goal.
I'll go with another Brandon Aubrey game winner. I'll go with 24-21. I said they'd win by three. I'll go 24-21 at MetLife
Still my
Stadium.
answer. It's cool. Watch out on MetLife, man. Ooh.
Yeah, let's go with now this new segment for the Texas Rangers. News broke out that Bruce Bochy is officially out as the manager, the sheriff in Arlington. Real quick, TJ, we've been kind of ragging on Bochy this season. But at the end of the day, the guy got the Texas Rangers the prize that a lot of fans have been asking for their whole lives, with a lot of misery coming, leading up to that moment in 2023. How will you remember Bruce Bochy?
A legend in the Texas Rangers history. It's you do kind of see the writings on the wall this year. The Rangers had an historical season fielding wise. Like they just announced that they had the best fielding percentage in MLB history this year. They
Unbelievable.
also had the best pitching in the league this year. To be 500 is abysmal. And I think you could track some of those decisions, the decision making by Bruce Bochy at sometimes with the lineups, with the pitching, bringing certain players in that were struggling and one-run leads. That these decisions ultimately affected the Rangers in a negative way this year, but that doesn't take away from his 2023 season and just the legendary run that team went on. The Rangers never won a World Series with any other manager, obviously. They were very close with Ron Washington. And I think of Ron Washington in a very, very fond way coming back to the Rangers history. I love that Ron Washington was, I think that he's the best Rangers manager of all time. Bruce Bochy, second. All right. I'll still say Ron Washington's still the better manager in their history, but Bochy delivered a championship, and that's something that you can't that Ron Washington never did. So
Yeah, I mean, the Road Warriors, the team that won the World Series in 2023, didn't lose a game on the road, 11-0 against the Rays, Orioles, Astros, and Diamondbacks. I mean, the guy's just a winner. He's found a way to send teams to the postseason no matter where he's managed. And, I remember him as one of the easiest locks, I guess, for the Rangers Hall of Fame. I mean, it is like one of the easiest you'll ever see. It's not even, you know, a conversation. He'll be in Cooperstown. If he decides to call it a career, there's some rumors out there that he might return to San Fran. I highly doubt that. I really don't think that's going to happen. The guy is, a grandfather. CY called him on the phone in the middle of like him being with his grandchildren and said, here's our plan. We have the pieces. Can you come manage us? I think this is it for him for sure. And if it has been, what a career. Four World Series titles, three with San Fran, one with the Texas Rangers, who struggled to actually get it done for multiple decades, failed in 2010, failed in 2011. But there's a little bit of magic, yeah, as we both remember in 2023, that we just could not believe. We've never seen this team deliver in such clutch fashion like that team he managed in 2023. So, what a legend Bruce Bochy was. Thanks, Bruce Bochy, for what you did. I wish it could have been, a much different outcome in this final year for you, but I thank him so much for what he brought to this team, and his first year out of retirement, coming
incredible.
to manage the Texas Rangers to a
Legend.
championship. That's
And
legendary
undefeated in
stuff.
game seven.
Yeah, undefeated in Game Sevens to this day, just unreal. I'll never forget
I
the
hope he
ALCS
retires
Game
with that.
Seven.
But
Yeah.
I mean, go just adding on real quick. I mean, there's just so many players that, that come and go that and not players but managers as well that you just like you really you know that it's time for them to go. You think that they've kind of you know you're realizing that they are kind of negatively affecting the team maybe with their decision makings or stuff like that. I think of Rick Carlisle as an example. his decision making in Game 7 against the Clippers that year ultimately led to him losing his job with the coach, or as a coach of the Dallas Mavericks. And after that, once he left, it was kind of like, I still appreciate the guy, and I still really, really thank him for what he did and know that he's a legend and we'll miss him. I also think of this is a weird example, but as a player, I think of Wesley Matthews, somebody who was definitely had ran its course in Dallas. He was terrible his last few years, and once we got rid of him, I was like, it's good to see him. I'm happy that we finally did what we needed to do, but it's a little sad to see a player like that committed to the city, especially a player like that decided to sign with the Mavericks after the whole DeAndre Jordan fiasco and said, "I'm still going to be a Maverick." Came back from his ACL injury and tried his very best every single game for the Mavericks, even when he was terrible. He still tried, and when he left, it was still like, damn, like I'm gonna miss the guy. I'm gonna miss the guy. So, this is kind of the same situation with Bruce Bochy. I think it'll be the same decision when eventually Adolis Garcia goes and Marcus Simeon goes. I'm gonna be like, they fought their ass off for the team, but it was probably about time.
I was not expecting a Wesley Matthews mention in the middle of the Bruce Bochy segment, but it ended up
Oh yeah.
making perfect sense. I
Anything
mean,
happens in the 214 Sports Show.
you can't predict, you cannot pin down the 214 Sports Show, but you can pin down to this end of the episode, 214 Sports Show, episode
What a transition.
87.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
oh.
Yeah, Jay Saldi episode. Again, we come out with these episodes every Thursday at 11 a.m. Central. Please put on your noties if you want. Please like the video, share with somebody you know or somebody you love, and please subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. We post the full-length podcast or chopped up segments concerning each team on YouTube as well in full length. You can also follow our accounts on YouTube Shorts. We post Reels on Instagram and also TikTok. Gonna try to post some stuff on Spotify, which I did not know you could do. TJ let me know you could do that last week after I posted, but I'm gonna try to do that so you can see more of our content on Spotify as well. We post some short form stuff of some of our takes concerning our DFW teams. With that being said, TJ, do you want to share your socials really quick?
Well, I mean, if you insist, I'll add my socials real
Please.
quick, and it'll be you can add me on X/Twitter at TJ_Krilowicz, and then on Instagram TJ.Krilowicz.
And for me, you can follow at Instagram and Twitter, the same handle at Joseph_Duffey99. Or on TikTok, haven't really posted there in a minute, but at underscore, or not underscore, at JOE_DUFFEY. Again, please like and subscribe and share on the 214 Sports Show. We post every Thursday, 11 a.m. Central. Thank you for joining us for episode 87 of the 214 Sports Show. For TJ Quillowitz, I'm Joseph Duffy. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.